Hello. Yes, you are live. Welcome, Jim. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Why don't you go ahead and take it away and start telling us a bit about what you do, who you are, and what you have to say about the digitization of pharma. And I will be in the background when you need.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's quite a privilege to be here and be a part of the HITLAB Innovation Summit. I'm Jim McGough. I'm co-founder of Edge One Medical, and I'm a Breakthrough Alliance board member. Very excited to contribute more to this wonderful ecosystem we have at HITLAB today. At Edge One Medical, we believe no one should develop breakthrough healthcare innovation alone. It's too challenging. It's too complex. It's just something nobody should be doing alone. And so my firm, Edge One Medical, we support 8 of the top 20 global pharmaceutical firms with the development of their devices. That includes software as a medical device, digital therapeutics, auto injectors, inhalers. And so we've been doing this for over 10 years. We're very trusted, key essential partner for the big pharma. And in that role, that key little enabling partner, we've seen a lot of things happen over the last several years as the big pharma industry has started to embrace digital in many dimensions in their businesses. So actually today, I just want to let you guys know I'm very fortunate. I'm here in Helsinki, Finland, at the Slush conference. And I'm also very happy that my friends at VetroSpace let me use their state-of-the-art studio to be able to share my five little treats here that are going to help you, wherever you are in the world of healthcare innovation, have a better understanding of some of the challenges that are facing big pharma and also the early stage companies that are trying to support and bring innovation to them. So with that, I'm going to give you your first treat, and that is first a scoop of Rocky Road gelato. Now I'm here in Europe. I'm normally headquartered in Chicago, but I just couldn't help myself. Gelato is so good here in Europe. And so the first treat, it's an afternoon here in Finland, is Rocky Road. And what by that, I mean, I'm going to talk about the issue that has been uncovered over the last couple of years. This is a talk I've done in several versions over the last year or so. But basically, big pharma is having to decide, are they in the business of medicines or just drugs, or are they in the health outcomes business? And so this is the question that has been asked internally by the pharma executive and management. And so what the learnings, actually, which I'm sharing with you today, are that it's been somewhat of a slow lurch. And of course, over the last couple of years with COVID, the promise and the impact of developing a vaccine for COVID is taken center stage. And the first thing I want to just address, pharma has demonstrated just how important this whole industry and what they're capable of their capabilities are in delivering, life-saving, world-saving therapies and vaccines. But with this unsettled world and challenges to all businesses, pharma has actually been bifurcated. Some folks are going after the medicines even more aggressively, not worrying so much about digital, and others are, depending on the therapeutic areas of focus, are really doubling down on having going beyond the pill, if you will. But the other thing that has been really becoming more apparent is that there are still a culture of optionality. Basically, senior executives need to have some digital initiatives on many fronts in their business in pharma. However, the projects that get delayed most often are the ones that are digital. And so this is where my colleagues have, that are inside of, my clients that are inside are digital leaders or in the device programs, saying that that's just been very frustrating, even though it does, and publicly they're championing, in some cases, the adoption of digital, many different things, patient engagement, compliance, connected drug delivery, digital biomarkers, but we'll talk more about those in a second. But the last point I want to make is especially in terms of that digital biomarkers, that is where there's been a lot of adoption for big pharma. There's been some great discussions at some conferences this fall conference season that have discussed that the movement of what we might call connected drug delivery or theranostics, like an artificial pancreas would be an example of a therapy and a diagnostic system in one. Those things have slowly progressed, whereas investment in digital biomarkers is really accelerated. There's a lot of interesting things happening in that space. So understanding the business and whether you're executive or senior management, it really helps to understand that before you go into some of these other key questions that are. So the second little scoop I would like to share with you today is what I call the vanilla gelato. And I use vanilla for a purpose. A lot of the management, not the executives, but they're still not quite sure that their senior executives are really knowing the way forward to take a big pharma into this digital world of delivering healthcare as it becomes more digitized. Most of them have been trained in the traditional, just get patients, retain patients, old models that have served pharma very well for the last 50 plus years. It's changing depending on the categories that you're in. The thing that scares, and has been over the last couple of years, a ongoing tale that creates a lot of fear for big pharma, is this Livongo Teladoc, how they came into the diabetes space and basically had some new innovations on both the customer segment, in the case of Livongo, actually going to self-insured employers and getting them to sign up in droves to get their potentially better diabetes care for their employees. And so now the company like that grows. It was $16 billion, I think a year ago when I first gave this talk. These kind of companies grow so fast that, it really scares, the insulin makers or the other folks in the diabetes spaces because they're not quite sure how to react and what can be done. So what a lot of these big pharma companies have been turning to, and this is the old kind of model, like, hey, we want a pod father. It's funny, this morning here at Slush, the keynote to start the day was Tony Fadell, the inventor of the iPod. And basically, the story that I want to share is this is what every company that's going to have devices or combination devices, a drug and device or software, is to have that executive that has the design know-how and the business acumen to develop an iPod kind of franchise that turns into a platform. The reality right now for big pharma is there's not, most of the people who have that talent and capability will probably leave and go external and start a venture-backed company as opposed to staying inside. Actually, today I've had meetings with big pharma execs as well as pure startups. And there's actually promise that some of the big pharma are actually creating products that actually could get are almost venture worthy. So it's very exciting on that front. Going to the third insight is, and this I think one of the big themes for HITLAB Innovation Summit is the challenge in pharma is this idea of lifting revenue. Can these digital initiatives lift revenue? Right now, in the last few months, some of the conversations, some top 15 pharma, the big challenges are the folks in the operations and commercial and basically having a business case that they can get behind to incorporate some of these digital capabilities. And right now that is still a real tough nut to crack. And so right now we still have more of these patient engagement. There's been these, what I call pilot, a lot of pilots where they've tried some things out, but they haven't been able to convert those pilots into really a business value proposition that the commercial leaders can green light to go into a major therapeutic franchise for a big pharma. The other thing that's playing is in the digital therapeutic space is this concept of there's not a clear payment mechanism for digital therapeutics. Some pharma are trying to help in certain cases there, but it's because of the lack of additional reimbursement, it's hurting, dampening the ability to get some of these adjunctive or combinatorial digital therapies and digital diagnostics incorporated and commercialized. The other thing that's coming down the line is there's still these other, the FDA, and I'll be more US specific. In a sense, we're seeing a transition, just like there before the Office of Combination Products, there was a devices and drug centers, but now there's going to almost be a new office. We're going to have drug, device, and data and those things. And that's where the Center of Excellence, the group led by Gul Patel, lots of really good things happening, but it's still creating uncertainty, which in a certain sense, in the short term, helps the big guys. The big pharma can kind of wait out. They have plenty of regulatory and quality experts that really can understand the emerging guidance that'll be coming as these things further get solidified and standardized. And then also just want to make a point, the big guys, Apple, the Amazons also are in a position as these regulations start to kind of firm up to get involved. So those are some of the things. So the revenue is not quite where it needs to be for pharma. A couple other points I'm going to get at real quickly here that I think are really important for people around the world that are, watching pharma and its adoption of digital, is that it comes down to how you structure companies that are innovative. In the press here in the US, we've been seeing the divestiture of these conglomerates, namely Johnson & Johnson is just going to split up its business, and GE and so forth. It's coming down to, you have to have these really, these companies where there's a balance between what we call the soldiers, who are the folks that can take the product, commercialize it, make millions, billions of dollars globally, and then the artists, or some people call them pirates, that are actually the ones that really design and develop these really new game-changing capabilities that are real value for pharma. So the companies that can do that best are the ones that are really going to thrive here as we go more digital. And that's where the last point I'm making here is, it is now the 3D era, drugs, devices, and data. And that data, it took so long for the combination product kind of harmonization between the device folks and the drug folks in pharma. The data is going to take another 10 years, just like the last 10 years. So because of those things, it's starting to turn into a people and culture, and do you have the leadership that can really truly enable that kind of environment for loon shots? The last key insight here, the last blood orange gelato scoop I'm going to share with you is the challenge that big pharma is having with human capital, especially around, like I call, connected health programs. There's still a tendency for it just to be a plus one, another, it's just add another person, add another department, something with digital. And this has been the case of almost every industry that has started to be transformed by digital. But it's not just another group or another person, it's a whole layer and a way of thinking. And so some pharma are actually really progressing pretty far, whereas there's some that are in what I call the drugs only or medicines that are just basically too far behind at this point. So the question I have is, what do Astra, Blue Origin, Exos have in common? Well, these are all space exploration companies, and they are fighting to get the device and data scientists and engineers the best in the world. So the question and the challenge for pharma is, can you actually have a shot at hiring some of these people to go work in your companies? It's been very iffy. So that's where you see this last point of orthogonalization of partners. Like my company, we do the device development programs for 8 of the top 20 pharma, and they increasingly have device, drug, and software or data collection. And you have to have worked with pharma for 10 years and under more complex programs before you can get a chance to do this again and again. And so there's a lack of qualified organizations and people. So the pharma has to grow this and invest and help create more of an ecosystem to help them do this. So there's several things that are just challenging pharma's progress here. But there's a lot of, I'm just being here at Slush here in Helsinki. It's just tremendous how much big pharma is advancing. I just had an amazing chat with some J&J, Janssen people about what they're contributing. AstraZeneca is the chief sponsor of Slush. So this is a kind of tech conference, but it's being, in a sense, dominated by pharma. Anyways, I would love to go deeper on some of these things. For those of you that know me and are checking in, great to see you. Happy New Year, happy holidays, and Happy New Year. For those of you who want to go deeper, I'm going to have a little more long form on this. And I'm a member of the Breakthrough Alliance board, and I'll be involved in symposia and other programming throughout the upcoming year. So thank you so much for the time today. Just want to give you guys a couple little tasty morsels here. And hopefully this is additive to your learnings here to how to better innovate in the world of healthcare. So thanks for your time today. And I think I'll just pass it back over to my colleagues there at HITLAB.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. And I'm loving the snazzy setup that you got here with the virtual space there. So thank you for your time here today, and enjoy the rest of your time in Finland and the rest of the Slush conference.
I appreciate it. Thanks. And all the best to everybody out in attendance. And if you want to get LinkedIn, feel free. I would be happy to do that with anybody. Thanks so much.
All right. So you guys can connect with Jim on LinkedIn if you feel like you want to learn more about what he does. Up next, we have Jing Dong from Columbia Business School, who will be sharing some of her research. So I will see you guys, as always, on the, what's it called? The agenda slot there for Jing Dong.